father worked for General Rampal, and they were all part of the CIA secret army in Laos. I know he worked very closely with the Americans, and in fact, my brother Tony got his name Tony because my father had worked with an American soldier named Tony.
May 1975, we lost our country, so it's so hard, we don't know how to go.
And if they found out that my father had anything to do with the army, we would be all killed on the spot.
My full name is Ki Nuki Phang. I was born in Laos in 1968.
I was born in Sinkwang, Laos, 1968. And we lived in Long Cheng, which is one of the army bases for General Rampal and the CIA army there.
My full name is myself. I was born in Laos, the city called Sam Thong.
I remember a few things. I was very young. I remember going to school, and I remember that in order for me to get to school, I had to cross an airstrip to get to school.
My father was a soldier back then, and I remembered that we had to move from place to place, from different city to different city. Eventually, when we were old enough, or at least I was old enough to vaguely remember that we moved to live in a secret base in Laos, because that's where my father worked. And from my birthplace, which is a small village up in the mountain, because it was too dangerous, the North Vietnamese would invade, would come to the villages, and we couldn't live there, so we had to move, and there was just a lot of war going on during that time.
In 1975, from May, I want to say 13, 14, or 15, in 1975, the Americans had pulled out of Laos, and many soldiers and their families were instructed that they had to leave the country or they would be killed.
Laos really was never supposed to be in a war, or we're supposed to be a neutral country, and when it was leaked out that we were heavily involved in the war, the Hmong was heavily involved with the CIA in the war, and when the American pulled out, they said to our General Rampal, that you can stay or you can go, and he and all of his officials, they decided to go, because we know back then we knew that if we stayed, the repercussion of staying was punishment and death.
And my father knew how to drive because he's in the army, and so he actually took one of the cars and drove us back home, and made sure that he got rid of all his uniforms, IDs, and everything that would connect him to the army. Dressed my mom and the nanny up as farmers' wives, and dressed himself up as a farmer. And we then left the country by every city has an entrance gate that was guarded, and the roads were all blocked. And my father came very close to being caught, but God was with us, and we weren't caught. My father had forgotten that he had an army knife, a small army knife that he had left in his suitcase where he put his money. And as they were digging through his suitcase, they were ready to take my father away. But luckily, at the same time, there was trouble involving another car next to us. So all the soldiers ran to that car, and my father just drove off.
We get to the Vientiane. We get to Vientiane for almost a week. I think a week. Try to find the boat across the Mekong River.
There was an enormous amount of bribing that was going on, and to arrange for, again, with the Thai police, there were some Thai police working in the capital city of Vientiane, And my parents, my uncles, they all went and they bribed all these policemen from Thailand to send boats across the Mekong River to pick out families. And I'm going to say there were at least 10 families that were trying to escape out of the country.
They tried to go far and they got the message that, okay, if we pay like 200 or something thousand ki, so they can come pick it up about 3 o'clock in the morning. And we agreed that, then pay them. But the Laotian people were so happy. And they took my husband and my brother.
Because you guys paid them?
Yeah, we got paid them. We already paid them, and they come and pick up. So about 2 o'clock, I don't see my husband and my brother come back, and I'm so worried. That's about 2:30, almost 3, and uncle and my husband come back, and he was drunk.
My father was in no shape to walk. He could not even stand up. And all my mother's family had left. There were like 2 or 3 trucks, and they had left. And my mother was begging people to help her, and there was no one, who would be willing to help her. And the majority of the money actually had come from my parents. And so the truck left, and my uncle jumped off the truck, came back, and drove there was a small pickup truck that was owned, my uncle's family owned. And so he drove in the pickup truck and threw us in the back with my mother, and we followed the big trucks. And I remember to this day even that that night my father was so drunk and he was so scared, and he kept praying. He kept saying, God, just help me get over this. Help me get over this so I can get my family across to safety. And I remember his prayer that entire time that we drove, and he was just asking God to just help him to get over his drunkenness so that we can escape. And he did. By 3 a.m. he was a lot better, and we had gotten to the beach. And luckily, our signal was to wave some lights so that the Thai boatmen can see us, and they'll come straight for us. And one of the boats came straight to our family.